Good morning and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and in the continued absence of the wonderful libertarian redhead, I am joined this week by the wonderful Britt Salt. Britt, welcome back to the show. Have you been here since the Eddsworld days?
Oh no, I haven't been here in a while.
Yeah. Well, you are back now and all moved in too. It looks like you just went all the way across the country. So big congratulations on that. I know that's probably a big exciting thing, and maybe even a little bit of a bum to you too, because I know you didn't want to leave California, but
Yeah, no, I didn't want to leave California. I love California. California was my home for my whole life until extremely recently. But there's really nothing left for me there, especially after this past week. It is what it is. You do what you have to do. So we're here.
Yeah.
We're in Georgia now, and I really like Georgia. Everything except the potato salad is great. So.
Well, the potato salad, that's an interesting comparison. You have a story to tell, or?
I've been on a lot of shows the last couple weeks, and people in Georgia are gonna probably hate me because that's like the one thing I consistently say. Like, I like everything except the potato salad. It's really sweet. My parents had a deli when I was a kid. I have a certain way that pasta, salad, and potato salad, and all those things are prepared. Very Italian family. And when I came here and there was, I guess, sweet relish or something sweet in it, it threw me. And I can't get over it. I feel like I'm gonna have to bring my own potato salad everywhere I go. So
Well, maybe you can go out there and teach them a way. I'm not much of a potato salad eater myself because I can't eat the mayo in it, but I hear it's good. I hear a lot of people say it's good.
I feel like I'm not going to come to Georgia and try and teach people anything. That is not something that I think they want or that I want. So I will just eat my non-sweet potato salad in my own little corner, and I will push it around on the plate and say thank you when it's served, when that sweet potato salad is served to me at the cookout. So.
This is great. Well, and I wanted to teach the people in Massachusetts how to live too, and they weren't having any of that either. But we've got a lot of news to get to here this week. We've only got 4 main topics this week, but there's, especially with everything that's happening around the budget right now, there is a lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to go over, and a lot of stuff to discuss. So I think it's going to be the brunt of what we're going to be talking about here today. But just looking over the topics here, the nurses thing. So New York has come out and said that they're going to fire all nurses. I believe they've already fired all nurses who haven't had the vaccine. They've already fired those. It looks like they're possibly going to be bringing in the National Guard to come and take care and fill some of the gaps, which has its own set of problems, I can come out and say. And it looks like other states are debating doing the same. Speaking of the COVID, it looks like the vaccination fight is going further, but it also looks like Pfizer might actually have a pill for this instead of taking a shot too. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there and the big fines that are going to be coming for noncompliance that could be tied to the budget reconciliation. Speaking of the budget reconciliation, we had another showdown over whether or not we were going to sit back and fund the government for a little while here. Coming up to the fact where we do have a continuing resolution that will last until December of next year. So, hooray, I guess. The government's going to stay open. Maybe.
Isn't that a shame?
But the fight over the debt ceiling continues, and the fight over the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation also continues here, so we'll talk just a bit about that. We will close out the show talking about the Afghanistan hearings. Millie, Austin, and Mackenzie all faced off against both chambers of Congress this week, so we'll talk a bit about some of that, some of the things that were discussed throughout all that, and everything else that went with that. Plus, we're going to finish out the show with a little bit of surprise stupidity, and start off the show with a couple of smaller news articles and some catch-ups from stories from prior, wow, I can't talk today, prior weeks here. So it's going to be all this more over on the Red Ned Show. Thank you for coming in and checking us out over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope, except there's no more Periscope, and Well, actually, we're not on Facebook today because it doesn't seem to want to connect because, well, I think Facebook might be dead for a little while. It might be the most productive day for boomers there is in history, but Facebook and Instagram both seem to be down today, so I don't think we're streaming to either one of those right now, but check us out on any of those platforms otherwise, or if you can't catch us live, you want to catch us back on demand, we also go to YouTube and over on BitChute.com, or you can catch us on the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. Any of those places, you can come and catch us anytime. And since it's been so long since you've been here, and we talked a little bit off mic about the fact that you might have some new projects in the works, I don't know how much you're ready to be public about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the upcoming projects that you have?
Well, I am Britt, and if you guys probably, if you know me, it's from Twitter at Tweets by Britt. I'm 1/3 of the Fab Show now, which is me, Freckled Liberty, and Rachel Nix. And I have a couple things coming up. I have a Liberty ASMR channel that I'm working on YouTube. I know. It'll be fun. It'll be maybe a disaster. I have a new alt that you guys can try and figure out which one it is. But it's fun. In addition to my super left-wing alt that like very few people know about, and my OnlyFans refunds alt, which I'm going to be kicking back up. And then I do have another show that might be starting up, but that's still kind of in the works. Until then, I'm also on Clubhouse. You can find me there. Salt by Britt. I host a lot of I mod a lot of rooms, and I have my own Clubhouse room called The Idea Exchange, which is libertarian in nature, but not necessarily in theme every room night that we have one.
A lot of places to go and find Britt, and definitely go out and check out all of those places. Britt is a great friend and a great person to follow, by the way, if you like salt especially, because there's plenty of salt that comes out of there. We saw, I guess, a little bit of that today. I was, doing so much show prep today, I didn't hear about it until you told me about this today. So go and check out that salt that is at Tweets by Britt over on Twitter. And while we're at it and selling the wares, we have another, well, not announcement because we've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, but we do have the new home of media for the refugees of the Freedom Scoop Media Group, plus a new show that will be on that I haven't announced yet, but I've talked to them about. We have TurnSomePagesProductions.com. The domains are owned. You guys can go and check that out. Bookmark the page. We don't have any content yet, just a countdown as to when we're going to be live. But once we get back there, we will, well, I've given you the invitation that you can host the Freckles and Britt show over there, absolutely. But we will be carrying the Daily Ignoramus, the Porch Boys, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Already Conservative, and all of my shows as well. So you can go over and check those out. And go check out all the creators on there too, because they're all great people. They're awesome people. Plus, we'll have some written articles there. I love the idea of making news for the common man by the common man. I've always loved that idea because, for the most part, we get our news from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses do, except maybe your house. Because I know a little bit about what's going on there. But for the most part, yeah. I mean, Olbermann's suit costs more than the building I live in right now. And I rent.
Yeah, everything's bad. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how to respond to that comment. But I will say, going back to the people that are on the new channel, they're all great. So you guys should check them all out. And if you want to get a really great listen to Stephen Ignoramus's work, he does a theme song for the Fab Show. So just wanted to throw that out there.
And if you guys wanted to help us out a little bit financially, I know that because the thing is the news from the common man for the common man, we do need to raise a little bit of money to go and get this started out here. So we have got a GoFundMe that's going on right now. We're looking to get $2,000 for the web development for Bobby Joe, who is an awesome web developer. I've got the link in the chat there, but we are a quarter of the way to our goal right now, so you guys can go and check that out. $500 of the $2,000 raised. And if you choose to have your name known, which a couple of people have, but most people have been donating anonymously, we will give you a special thank you on a special page on the website too. So go and check that out. Link is in the live chat if you guys want to throw even a $5 bill will help us out get to our goal. So that'd be very awesome of you guys. So go and check that out as well. So I think that's all the wares. You ready to do some news?
Let's do some news.
All right. We've got some things to catch up on, a few smaller stories that didn't fit anywhere, and a couple of updates to stories that we've covered in the past. And we are going to start by listening to the Crypt Keeper herself, Nancy Pelosi, maybe do a little bit of Freudian slip and tell us the real words of what she's saying here. Let's have a listen to what Mrs. Pelosi has to say.
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even to address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
Did you catch it? Did you guys catch that? let's check that one more time.
The full Obama agenda of building back better and I love to say,
do you think that she might have said the quiet part out loud over there?
Oh yeah, I think that Grandma's been drinking again. Starting to slip.
I think she's been.
New.
Yeah.
Biden's whole job is to just finish what Obama had started. And it's blatantly obvious. At this point, I don't even know what is there any pretense left? Are they pretending anything is what it is anymore? Is it just you never get Christmas again? You'll be separated by 6 feet forever. The only one that'll ever love you is the state because that's the only one you're allowed to touch. There is no Christmas. There is no Easter. There is no God. The state is your God. And I mean, that seems to be the whole agenda. And it started with Obama. And then we've just got, Joe propped up there until his decrepit old ass dies. So,
and maybe even for a few months after that.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, that's what we hear coming out of the Crypt Keeper here. In other news, coming from the other side of the aisle, Justice Kavanaugh has tested positive for the COVID, but he has no symptoms. Reading briefly from the Associated Press, Brett Kavanaugh tested positive for COVID-19 despite being vaccinated, the Supreme Court said on Friday. The court said the 54-year-old justice has no symptoms. It is the first time the court has reported that a sitting justice has tested positive. Amy Coney Barrett tested positive last year before she joined the court.
Womp womp. The left is so sad he's not going to die. He's just going to get antibodies and immunity and he'll go on. Womp womp womp. I love it. I love when they they test positive and then nothing happens. I've never seen so many people so sad that somebody didn't die.
Well, yeah,
I haven't seen people so sad about someone not dying from COVID since Trump got COVID.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. They were hoping for that too when that came out.
Yeah, that dude's old. That dude's old AF, and he was just standing up there now I'm gonna be president with this COVID. Brett Kavanaugh's gonna be fine. They're all gonna be fine.
Yeah. So. One that I saw you tweeting about a little bit over the weekend here, and I saw a little bit of salt coming out of that one here. We had a new Women's March. Women's March holding first post-Trump event this weekend. Reading briefly from The Hill, the Women's March on Saturday will hold its first rally since former President Trump left office, signaling a new era for the organization. It was one of the largest grassroots movements to oppose Trump. It was totally grassroots. ActBlue had nothing to do with that.
It just blossomed completely organically. It's absolutely, none of that was coordinated from the party that is the main tenet of the left is central planning, and this just organically grew out of that year after year.
It looks like theme of this one was the Texas abortion law, which I know that you've had a lot to say about.
Co-parter. That's really where I'm at. Like everyone, I love when that, like these bitches come at me like, you're a libertarian. How you're a fake libertarian. You want to take women's rights away. I'm like, bitch, I'm not the government. All right. I'm a housewife from Georgia. Like, so all I'm saying is that I think that you should be ashamed and that it's a net positive for society to shame people into doing the right thing. Then we don't have to have the government involved. But yeah, I did post, I said the Whammons are marching and they're upset about, like, they want, this chick said that she wants as many, she wished she had as much rights as a gun or something like that. She wished her uterus was as regulated as a gun. I forget what it was, whatever the stupidity was. And it calmly explained, the rules around guns in different states. And for that, everyone's like, you hate women, you're misogyny, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, it's super, like, let me just go off on a little tangent for a second here. You are the party that wants to slaughter a baby in its own mother's womb and then have men get off scot-free if they parrot this little, like, her body, her choice phrase. I am of the mindset that you don't slaughter your children, that you can rise above difficult circumstances. You can still have a fulfilling life without killing the people that you create, and for holding men accountable for the child, our children, that they decide to bring into this world with another person. Who is the misogynist here? Because I don't think it's me. I don't think it's the one that wants to hold men accountable and not just let them go and make babies and then tell someone to kill them and not have feelings about it. No. I'm done. I'm done with the libertarians that think this. I'm done with the leftists that think this. I'm done with the GOP women that think. I don't care. If you think abortion is like healthcare, if you think abortion is a woman's right, if you think any of those stupid things that you've had to brainwash yourself in, if you tell me a baby is a parasite, if you tell me it's not a human, if you tell me it's not a person, if you tell me it's not a life, I think you're an idiot and I'm done being nice. You're literally killing people. You're growing people and killing them. You are sick. That is demented. It's disgusting. And the only way that I let people off the hook is when I thought that there was ignorance involved. But really, it's just, it's so willful at this point that I think you're evil. So this is where I stand. And I'm not sorry about it, sickos.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And we've got actually another abortion one on deck here. But I think this is a little bit on the different side here because NPR reports doctors say that the Texas abortion ban is complicating other types of medical decisions. Reading briefly, Andrea Palmer delivers about 20 babies, easily the best part of her job, but someday she has to deliver difficult news. So this article, and it's NPR, so they've got to go all the way around the point, so you read the whole thing and get the second donate link. But I'll sum it up here is that NPR has come up with, all those little anecdotes out there of, oh, well, if you oppose abortion, you oppose this one, and the baby that developed without a brain, this doctor might get sued for aborting the one that was going to be born without a brain, or the one that was miscarried, they might get sued for the miscarriage.
So what you're telling me is that the government that you trust so much to uphold your right to have an abortion is too fucking stupid to discern the difference between a miscarriage and an abortion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, what are you telling me here? My other favorite one is the one that says, women that have abortion, it's dangerous. What about the woman? You know what, bitch? It should be a little more dangerous for you to kill your baby than it is right now. It's super fucking dangerous for the kid that you created and that you are now going to slaughter. So maybe it should be a little dangerous for you. Maybe it should be a little scary. Maybe it should be something where you have to stop and think about it instead of like scheduling your abortion between your brunch date and dinner and your next like hookup. Sorry, I have zero chill left about this. Stop killing your children.
If some of them stopped fucking, then they probably wouldn't be in this situation either.
Like, this is 2021, and you guys, I am like super pro morning after pill. I don't think that it's I haven't seen any evidence of like super pro life sites that I don't know that it's actual evidence and more conjuncture where it says, oh, this is actually causing an abortion. Like the morning after pill doesn't do that. So, depending on where you're at in a religious sense, it's the same as using a condom. Some people don't believe in that either. But and I've had this argument, but if you come at me and say, like, I'm Catholic, I can't use a condom, bitch, then you can't get an abortion either. If we're going to follow that logic,
yeah, exactly.
You can't do it either. So,
and realistically, if you're Catholic, you shouldn't have stuck that there in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm not
unless you had a ring on it.
I'm done giving.
I'm sorry.
I'm done giving. Like we're supposed to have all this empathy. Like, oh, pregnant. You know what? Stop it. You want to treat a pregnant woman with kid gloves? Then she has to fucking stay pregnant. All right. She has to stay pregnant as long as she's fucking supposed to. All right. Like, sorry, I don't like. Oh, your feelings because you're pregnant and the hormones. Don't get pregnant. Or if you want me to be nice to you, don't tell me that you're going to kill your baby. Sorry, not that person. Don't come to me for sympathy. I've had 2 babies, and 2 of the worst pregnancies of almost anyone I've ever met. Was literally hospitalized over and over. With my second pregnancy, I was on an IV at home. They had to send me home with an IV and have a nurse come every day and change a freaking IV. That's how sick I was. And you know what I did? I got through it because I'm a fucking grown-up.
Well,
there's ways to do things.
I guess I should have made this a main topic, but we do have to keep going off of here.
Let's move on. We probably should.
Notice one out of Texas here. Former student arrested. A principal hospitalized following an active shooting at a Southwest Houston school. So this was a little bizarre because this took up all of Twitter for all of like 3 hours on Friday. Former student, 25 years old, went out to a school and with a gun started shooting. I believe he was, it's not confirmed yet, targeting the principal specifically. Principal was hit in the back, but unfortunately, and this is kind of the sickness of the culture here, the picture of the assailant came out and all of a sudden the news story disappeared.
Are we over? I didn't even know about this. Are we done with mass shootings, or is it because of how the
melanin count in his skin, I think, had a reason of why we didn't talk about it.
Can we just say, I'm just getting everybody else, the left is now saying all the quiet parts out loud. Like, the person wasn't white, so we don't talk about it. Is that exactly what happened?
Yeah.
Like, it was a bad thing, and then they weren't white, so now so do they get a statue now, or how does this work?
I'm not sure. I think he might be going to prison, but I'm not sure how that works either.
Prison, okay. So no, they're not gonna do like a mural.
Well, maybe we could commission that.
Maybe we should.
I got a couple videos here for you. So this has been kind of an entertaining thing that's been going through in the news. And listen to this NBC anchor try to explain this one away here. This is coming from, I believe, this week's NASCAR. I don't even know who's sponsoring the cup anymore, but the cup race this way. Talking to the winner and trying to explain to him that they're actually cheering for him in the chant. Let's listen. And we'll let the judges in the audience decide what they're actually saying in the chant.
Thank you to all of our partners. Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first 2 stages and just watch and learn. What did you learn that helped you there in those closing laps?
Oh my God, it was learning how each line didn't...
Let's go, Brandon, right?
Let's go, Brandon, is how I feel about this whole situation. I saw that when it was happening. My husband's a huge NASCAR fan. And I was like, that's not what they're saying. And my initial thought was, what producer told her? What producer was in her ear telling her that that was like what she needed to say? Like, clearly there was someone behind that. I mean, if not, I actually give her props for coming up with that quickly. but that's awesome. I love that just happened. It's also really scary because when we see that, and then we see the suppression of what's happening, like that to me is like, oh, okay, so we're at like which level of on the slide to communism. So that was great though. I love it.
The thing that got me the most about that is I do remember, and this was a long time ago, this was like 02, 03, no, it was 03 or 04 or something, where Junior accidentally in an interview at the end said shit live on air, and they didn't do the 5-second delay, so they didn't get to bleep him, and they fined him like 30 grand.
Yeah.
And this, I don't have network TV, so I don't know if this made it onto network television or not, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like this made it right onto live NBC.
Yeah, it did. I mean,
that makes it even better.
I mean, if they would have muted it, then how are they gonna? But I mean, we didn't miss any of it, so no. We knew what they were saying.
In other news, another video here, our favorite Swedish climate activist has come back. Climate activist Greta Thunberg is criticizing world leaders for what she says is a lack of action on climate change.
Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Right now, here in Milano, ministers from all over the world have gathered here to discuss the climate crisis. And they are pretending that they have solutions to the climate crisis and that they are taking sufficient action. But we see through their lies and we see through their blah, 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 and we are tired of it.
Your thoughts?
Bot has been activated. Bot, blah, blah, blah. Climate change, blah, blah, blah. I feel like the best solution to Greta Thunberg is a Free Greta campaign. I feel like we just start a Free Greta campaign like they did with Free Britney, and we don't stop until her dad has to admit that he put her up to all of this and he's in complete control. And we just completely undercut any message we have or any message she has by just saying, like, everything she does. Everybody that's listening, please just start hashtagging Free Greta under every one of her tweets so that it's just blatantly obvious that she's being controlled and having to say these things.
Well, I always find it funny, too, because they try to say that you can't criticize her because she has Asperger's. And I looked right at the beginning, and the big smile that's on her face and the actual emotional expression she's doing off of this. My cousin, the one that you know, his little brother has Asperger's, and he is nowhere close to that expressive. She's very expressive for having Asperger's, but I don't know enough about it to know if there's a range for that or not.
I don't know. Probably. I'm sure there's a range for everything. That's not really my wheelhouse. I don't know a whole lot about Asperger's and autism and anything on that spectrum. So whether fortunately or unfortunately, it's just not anything I've had a whole lot of contact with.
I'm also trying to figure out why all these speeches are somehow in English.
Yeah, I know, right?
She's Swedish and in Italy, and she's speaking neither of those languages.
Yeah, well, sound bites don't work out in the U.S. if they're in Italian.
If they have to be subtitled. Yeah, I could see that. A few more things off of here. Minnesota Middle School is removing F grading from its grading system, saying it reinforces systemic racism and will allow students to retake failed tests. Just a brief read from here. This is from the Daily Mail. Students at a Minnesota high school will no longer be seeing an F on test papers, no matter how badly they do, and they could be allowed to retake tests. Sunrise Park Middle School in White Bear Lake, which I actually know White Bear Lake, and this makes total sense, released a YouTube video this week detailing its new grading system, which it says, in part, helps fight systemic racism. My question here is, can the people who write these articles say something that doesn't entail to people with different melanin counts are stupid?
Yeah, I know. That's pretty, seems pretty racist to me. I have actually some nuanced feelings about this. I absolutely believe that there should be in upper grades, especially high school, and I would say even like junior, once you're out of elementary, I'm fine with an F grading. I think that students should be able to be graded on a scale. However, I'm absolutely in favor of students being able to take a test as many times as they need if they fail, because everybody learns differently. And to be perfectly honest, I really, really like an education system that opens itself up to students maybe that don't get things the first time. Okay, well, it wasn't retained that way. If the response to a failing student is a different approach from a teacher or an educator in whatever fashion that takes, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. If the goal is, if we want to change education, then I think we need to change the way we look at education in this country. If the goal is to get kids through high school and get them into that like public school to prison pipeline, fine, pass, fail, if you're or do that thing where nobody fails and whatever, you go into the world and you're stupid and you make $15 an hour and then you go to rallies about how you should make more, even though all you can do is flip a burger, whatever. If the goal is to actually educate kids, hey, you failed this, let's see where you went wrong, let's try and learn it. And I'm fine with that. Now, that is in a vacuum because it also depends on what they're learning, because I disagree with a lot of what's learning, but that's not what we're discussing here on this show today.
Well,
so parts of it I'm for, parts of it I'm not. And I also think it's super racist to just say like, like
it's only racist to say it's racist.
Yeah, it is racist to say it's racist.
Well, one of the big problems that I have with this too is, I mean, I look back and, I got the high school education and went off to trade school, but I also had offers to go to Harvard and I chose not to because I didn't want to live that far away from home, and then I wound up living that far away from home anyway, but that's a completely different story. Regardless, I look at this now, but I remember just how worthless my high school education was. I was taking college level classes freshman year of high school because mathematically I was so far ahead of my classmates on history and reading, or not history reading, but like the English and the history classes, I was on par with them, but on math classes, I was so far ahead. But I also remember, like, my dad and one of my uncles never graduated high school. My dad went on to live a comfortable life in the, he did factory work, but he was a specialty machinist. So, it wasn't just like push the button, send it down the line. You actually needed to know what the fuck he was doing for it. And my uncle started a business building food processing equipment. Neither of them had a high school education. You could do that in the 70s because the education you got by the time you were in 10th grade was enough to at least be competent in the world. Yeah. It's not that way anymore.
No. And we've also completely zeroed out any trade schools or any skill set that you could learn in high school like you used to be able to. You used to be able to start an apprenticeship in high school and take classes towards that. And that's just not even a thing anymore. And it's obvious why. It's because at 18, if you can get an 18-year-old into a college setting, then you can turn them into an activist that owes you a lot of money at the end of their college career, because that's what it really is for a lot of them. And it's basically it's an idea that comes from a bunch of hippies that were too lazy to get jobs, so they just kept going to school, and then they worked at the school, and then they passed these stupid ideas on to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Well, so, I mean, and yeah, there's plenty of that going on here. They've gone on, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this with Manchin later on here, but they have continued on the left side of the left to go after people's houses at this point here. Reading from the Blaze, liberal protesters confront Biden's DHS secretary at his home and demand he stop deportations. And the best way they could do this was by sewing together, I think, 24 of those little funny space blankets and writing a sign out there that says, "Stop President Trump policy, hashtag keep your promises."
They don't, the counter to that is that California is not letting people go directly to politicians' homes anymore to protest. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm going to say this. I don't think that you should go to anyone's home and cause violence. However, going to a politician's home to cause violence, as opposed to going to my target and causing violence, I don't know. If I had to pick, I don't want either to happen, but if I had to pick.
I guess if it was me, I would take it to the government building, except not Washington, D.C., because you might be called an insurrectionist. Unless you vote for the left, then you won't be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that we had that here. Speaking of your former state.
Oh.
California to ban state-sponsored travel to Ohio due to recent laws allowing medical providers to deny care to LGBTQ Ohioans. Reading from Cleveland.com, starting this week, California will restrict state-funded travel to Ohio as a result of the provision on Ohio's 2-year budget passed July 1st that allows medical providers in the state to deny care to LGBTQ patients. Blocking access to life-saving care is wrong, period, the news release says, whether it's denying a prescription for medication that prevents the spread of HIV, refusing to provide gender-affirming care, or undermining a woman's right to choose. Ohio HB 110 unnecessarily puts the health of Americans at risk.
I mean, can they restrict Californians from coming to Georgia? Is there something Georgia can do to get that deal?
Actually, I think that that's already the case.
Yeah, because
as long as they're state workers.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Can they expand that? Is there a way? What do we have to do to get that in Georgia so that they can't come from California to Georgia? Can we close the border? I need more information about how we get more of that, but in Georgia.
I think Georgia's already on the list, actually.
Yeah.
As long as it's state people.
Yeah, congratulations, Ohio. Your problems are solved. I don't know. Am I supposed to be like, how? I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a boon for Ohio, to be honest. Ohio wins.
The left coast states are doing this a lot too. Oregon's doing this, Washington is doing this, California's doing this. They just randomly pick a state. Like, hey, you have this law. Hey, our state lawmakers and our delegates and all the people that work for the government aren't allowed to travel to your state for state business.
That's a good way to that's a good way to open lines of communications between disagreeing parties, is not allowing the people that are in your party to go to a state where people are that they disagree with. It's a good plan, California. You just keep staying in where you're at. Stay right there. Everyone's bad. None of you should leave. The world is scary. Stay at home and stay 6 feet away from each other together.
Speaking of people from California, Reagan's assassin got in the news this week. John Hinckley wins unconditional release. Reading again from NPR, a federal judge has approved the unconditional release next year of John Hinckley Jr., who wounded President Ronald Reagan and 3 others outside a Washington, D.C. hotel in a failed assassination attempt in 1981. Hinckley is now 66 and has been living outside a mental facility for the past several years. Result of a gradual lightening of supervision, his lawyer said the momentous event of Hinckley's full release in June is both appropriate and required by law. And I've heard rumors that Biden offered to give him a full pardon if he was a better shot.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really know the ins and outs of that case. I mean, I people shouldn't shoot presidents, but also a couple weeks ago, I felt like maybe there was a case to be made for Lee Harvey Oswald. So I'm not not the best person to talk about this. That was a joke. Don't come at me. I don't want anybody shot. I don't want anybody killed. I don't want presidents hurt. I think it's bad. Let's not do that. And let's not implicate me in any planning of it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. And to be honest, I don't know enough about that case to know whether, I mean, he didn't kill him. He took a shot. He missed. Really? You missed. I mean, you didn't kill the guy. I guess you get to be old outside of prison.
And I hear that Jodie Foster wasn't that impressed anyway. I was listening to Daily Ignoramus this morning, and he was playing like videos from John Hinckley's YouTube channel because he's a YouTube musician now, and I mean he's actually not bad. He's talented, but the video that Steven chose to play was this absolute romantic love song, and I listened to him like I actually would have enjoyed this song if I'd known that he probably didn't just watch Taxi Driver with no pants on right before he wrote it.
I'm not going to go out and support this guy's hobbies or anything. I'm just not his parole officer. I don't really know what to say about any of this. So, I mean, I guess good for him. We let Bill Cosby out of prison, and that dude raped like all the women in the 80s. So I guess we're just it's a get out of jail old card, I guess. I don't know.
Some libs of TikTok insanity for you here. This set of parents decided they wanted to raise their kid gender neutral until he was old enough to decide, and he did choose he/him pronouns. Let's watch this.
When our child Zoomer was born in 2016, my partner Brent and I decided to raise them without assigning a gender. We didn't disclose their reproductive anatomy to people who didn't need to know. We used the gender-neutral pronouns they, them, their until Zoomer could tell us what pronouns fit best, and we taught Zoomer about bodies, gender, identity, and expression in an expansive and inclusive way. We wanted to hold space for the possibility that Zoomer could be intersex, transgender, or non-binary, and we were committed to protecting them from experiencing sexism in early childhood. Zoomer wore all the clothes, played with all the toys, and got to experience a childhood free of gender stereotypes. Around Zoomer's 4th birthday, he told us that he's a boy and that he loves he/him pronouns. Zoomer knows who he is and understands that gender is not binary and that his body doesn't define his destiny. We call this gender creative parenting, and there's resources and an amazing community waiting for you if you want to learn more.
I don't. I don't. I want to make a call to CPS is what I want to do, but I don't believe in getting the government involved in your child abuse. My kids also played with all the toys, and I didn't have to trick them because I had gender disappointment into whatever the fuck that family is trying to inflict on their child. I have a very strong inclination as a mother and being in mom groups for a lot of years. About 10 years ago, the big issue with pregnant women that was talked about a lot because it was the first time it was really coming out was something called gender disappointment. At the time was when...
Shut that up.
At the time it was when all the blood tests first started coming out that you could, at like 10 weeks, get the blood test and find out if you're having a boy or a girl. And a lot of women were disappointed at the sex of their child. And I think for millennia, women have sometimes been disappointed because they thought they were going to have a boy and they ended up with a girl or vice versa. And women started really talking about it. And I'm going to be honest here, and everybody I think will disagree with me on the outside, but if you really think about it, it makes so much sense. Right after that became a thing and it became okay to talk about, now we have all these babies being born where the parents are not choosing their gender. And I think that this is something pushed by women because one, they get social media likes for it. I think that's the number one reason people do it, is because they want to be internet famous. Mm-hmm. And they want, the kudos for being woke AF. And I think that it is a way for a woman that is disappointed with the gender of her child, with the sex of her child, whatever phrase we're going with this week, because it changes depending on how the left wants to argue, is a way to mitigate that and say like, oh, I had a boy, I wanted a girl, we're going to make them genderless, I'm going to dress them as a girl, and I want, because then I can play dress up. That's what this is to me. Mm-hmm. I don't see it as a mental illness. I think that you might be giving the kid a mental illness. I don't see it as some woke parenting. I see it as a selfish person that wants all of their whims and needs met, and they're willing to sacrifice the mental health of their child to do it.
Fair enough. And I mean, I am most curious, not really, because that could be picked up and clipped out of context here, but what the plumbing actually is on the kid, and whether he is an actual boy and decided to be a boy, or if this goes off the other direction here, because that opens up a whole new door of things off of this.
I don't know.
And I don't really care about transgenderism that much, except for the fact, all I care about is, people want to make these laws out of bathrooms where you should be just going in the bathroom that best fits your plumbing, because it's about waste evacuation, not a social statement. But yeah, I mean, if you want to dress up and, present like a girl, I mean, we have a mutual friend who I think is awesome that is transgendered.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care what adults do. And people will have told me before, well, if you don't want your kids around it, and if you have a problem with it with kids, and you have a problem with transgenderism, well, I do. I have a big problem with it. I have a lot of issues that I see with it. And also, I don't care what adults do. I care about my kids, my family. I care how we run things in our household. And I'm going to continue to espouse my values, which I do I talk to my children about these things. And I believe that you continue to be kind towards people, even if you disagree with things. And I don't believe in going out of your way to be cruel to someone. I'm not going to call someone who identifies as a woman, a man, and go out of my way to try and hurt their feelings, or try and make them feel a certain way, degrade them, or anything like that. But I'm also not going to confuse my children by telling them like, oh yeah, like my kids know what a transgender person looks like, because they've asked questions, we've had the conversation, and I'm not going to mess with their heads and tell them what they're seeing is not what they're seeing. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I don't love anybody that much. I don't love anybody more than I love my own children. That's just where it is. And if one of my kids came to me, we've had this conversation before. I've had this conversation with my children at times, because children ask questions. That would be a bridge we would cross when it happened. Mm-hmm. But it's not my job as a mother to confuse my children to the point where they now have to make their own decision on their gender. Life is already full of wonder and mystery and all these things that you have to figure out and get to figure out. Why would I make that one more issue that my kids have to deal with?
Fair enough. I got just a couple more here. I'm sorry to bring so much California stuff into this, but we have got another one out of California from the public school system. California parents request judge block public schools from asking students to pray to Aztec gods. Reading briefly from Fox News, 3 California parents are suing to prevent the state's public school system from citing prayers to Aztec deities that have been worshipped with human sacrifice, arguing that doing so violates the U.S. and state constitutions, because the good people of California only know one part of the First Amendment, and that's separation of church and state. Apparently, this is part of an ethnic studies class. Tezcatlipoca is an Aztec god that was honored with human sacrifices. According to the World History Encyclopedia, an impersonator of Tezcatlipoca would be sacrificed with his heart removed to honor the deity in Aztec mythology. Tezcatlipoca is the brother of Quetzalcoatl, Huitzilopochtli, and Sipitotec, all of whom appear to be invoked in the chant.
Okay. So the high school I went to, their mascot was the Aztec. When I was in elementary school, part of my elementary school, I went to a private Christian school and we didn't deal with this. However, when I went to public school, this was actually a thing even when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. And I don't know this exact course. I don't know this exact class, but I do remember reciting this. It's funny that you brought this up because really I'd never thought about it before because I didn't think it was, I didn't think anyone was trying to indoctrinate me. I just thought it was something we were learning as part of social studies because it was also something that we did, I believe in 5th grade or 6th grade for Greek and Roman gods also. So I don't know. I think it depends on the context in which it's taught. And to me, this seems a little like tit for tat. Like if the Christians can't say their prayers, then the teachers can't teach an Aztec prayer. I think if you're teaching world religion, I don't know that this needs to be brought into it. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not the teacher. I didn't come up with a curriculum. But it just seems a little tit for tat. I wish that it would just not be a thing. I wish we'd just stop. There's so many more pressing issues. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Hey, maybe they're in there making them worship some Aztec corn god. What do I know? If they are, then I would say stop that. If they're just teaching them that this is something that they did, that's a different thing. And I think that it's good for kids to learn to be observers of the world without always being participants of it.
Fair enough. And the last one before we get into the main topics, which we've spent quite a bit of time on some of the opening topics here, is that Smith & Wesson is leaving Massachusetts, finally. They're leaving Springfield, Massachusetts as of right now, going to a new headquarters in Maryville, Tennessee.
I think it might suit them well. I mean,
yeah. I can't believe they lasted that long in Massachusetts. I understand that, yes, it's the heritage and they've been there forever. And, you know, my Smith has Springfield, Massachusetts stamped right on the action. Stamped right there. I know exactly where it was made. But, you know, at some point as a gun manufacturer, you got to sit there and think to yourself, man, I wish these people would stop protesting outside of my factory.
I wonder if those firearms are going to go up in value now that they won't be printed with a Massachusetts label. I would imagine they would hold more value once they move. You know, and
that would be interesting. I never thought about that aspect.
So they might end up being collector's items.
All right. We're going to do a little bit of live chat here and see what's going on with them, but we do have to get into talking about this nurses, this budget, and everything else. And we might have to skip the Afghanistan hearings because that is, usually some of the things that go here. Katie Z is here. Hello, internet friends. Katie Z says that we need to get me to move to Georgia.
Move to Georgia.
I don't know if I could live without a winter. That's the only thing. Spartan says spending big money on clothes is a mental illness. Katie Z says she said the quiet part out loud. Breakdown with Birkenhoff is here. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said I often do. So
I think she was talking about Pelosi, saying the quiet part out loud.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Katie says, with you on the abortion thing, pure evil. We need to make adoption easier and less expensive.
Yeah.
And take some of the stigma away from adopting an older child, too. See if we can't move some of that, too. Because, I mean, as far as from what I understand, I don't know if this is true or not, because I've never tried to adopt, but there's a massive waiting list for babies, and there are the older children in the system.
There are, and there's no reason why adoption should be as expensive as it is. The reason it's so expensive is because you're paying all of these exorbitant amount of fees to people that shouldn't really be making as much as they're making off of children. And also you're paying for every child that has to be in that system as well. But if you made it easier to adopt, there wouldn't be those fees. Adoption really is an issue because we have a state.
Fair enough. Ben Wild is here. He says, I'm an Ivy Leaguer, but I'm pretty close to a total moron if you ask people that know. Katie said is going to LA for work in December and she is scared.
It's not. You'll be fine. It's not. Just keep your head down, man. Those streets are not clean. By the time you smell the urine, you've already stepped in the shit. That's all I'm saying.
Katie says this is child abuse. Ben Wild says child abuse is telling your kids throwing bales of hay in the hot sun builds character. I think Ben Wild went down the same direction you did. Let's be clear, they're only disappointed if it's a dude, because women empowerment. They just don't want guys, especially gun-toting, wood chopping, big truck driving, barbecue eating, ball scratching guys. I think I check all those boxes, actually.
You know what? You would be surprised how many women, when I was pregnant with my son, that were absolutely disappointed that they were having daughters. They were very upset, very upset. So it does go both ways. Maybe now more women want girls, but I think there was a lot of both.
Ben Wild. I think Ben Wild's the only one here right now, but he says actually raising kids is hard enough without someone else telling you what gender your kid is. Some days you just be trying to keep them from eating cookies and mac and cheese as dinner. I don't know. I've never had kids. I've got the nieces and nephews, but I don't have any kids of my own.
I don't want the state coming in and telling people that they have to name their kid a certain thing and they have to assign them whatever sex they are at birth. That said, I still think it's child abuse when your kid is clearly a male or clearly a female and you're like, we'll let you choose. It's insane.
It is. And I mean, for the most part, it's not about making a choice. I don't think, like I say, I don't know. I've never been through all this, but for me, the most part is when you're that age, the most important choice is, where do you pee?
Yeah.
I don't know. Once again, you've raised the kids. I don't know if I'm wrong in that or not, but at that age, that seems to be the most important distinction as to what the parts do, is where do you pee?
All my kids, you mean when you go out in public?
Or whether you stand up or sit down.
Oh. Yeah, that's part of it. I think a lot of, I don't know, without getting too much into it, from what I've seen, a lot of times, this tends to be more little boys that want to be little girls, and a lot of it, I can't stress how many children I'm from Los Angeles, I've met who were transgender that were my children's age. And a lot of it seems to be because little boys get more attention when they're dressed up this way, because all kids want attention. And one of the ways I always combat that is I make sure to tell my kid how adorable he is in his Spider-Man or whatever, because sometimes it really is that simple, you guys. Sometimes it really is.
And I've actually met your kid through the screen, and he is pretty cool, too.
It's pretty cool.
He is pretty cool. The other one is, too. All right, let's talk about this nurse shortage here. So this week, right after the Red Ned show of last week, this past week, it was announced that Kathy Hochul was not going to move on her mandate that all healthcare workers needed to be vaccinated with at least one dose by October 1st, which was on Friday. So at which point, anybody who was not vaccinated was to be fired. The announcement was made almost immediately that there was not going to be any unemployment for this. And the other announcement that came from this, and this is, I think, what I want to discuss, especially because you've been talking about the state the entire time, is the fact that now the state of New York is activating their National Guard to fill in the nursing shortages. Or I don't know if they've actually officially done this yet, but I know that was the first line of thought, was this is how we combat the nursing shortages, is to activate the National Guard, which I've got a lot of questions about. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what have you seen on this story?
Well, I actually covered this story on my show on Friday with Rachel and Freckles. We actually covered it last Wednesday. And I haven't seen the update where she delayed it, but I did see her in a church proselytizing apostles of Christ to go out and get people vaccinated. And I thought it was one of the most sacrilegious, heretic things that I had ever seen. And I will just kind of say the same thing that I've seen so many people say on social media. If you're in a worldwide deadly pandemic, you don't fire thousands of healthcare workers. You just don't. I mean, she's either incredibly inept, incredibly just doesn't know how to do her job, or she's incredibly wicked and evil. Probably both. She's probably ignorant and arrogant. I don't know. I hope it backfires. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I actually had that particular video queued up. So let's have a brief listen. I'm not going to do the whole minute 30, but let's have maybe half this video here.
I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones. But you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say.
It's not a cult.
It makes me so angry. And it's not what she said that makes me angry. What she said is par for the course. What makes me angry is that there was a pastor in that building, that there were Christians in that building, and none of them stood up and called her a heretic. None of them stood up and called her a liar. None of them stood up and said, how dare you? How dare you have the hubris to speak on behalf of God when you probably never opened a Bible? You wicked, wicked woman, how dare you? And it makes me angry at the Christians in that church. She was just pandering. I can't believe they let her talk. She talked about God with the same reverence she talked about her shitty vax necklace. She gave them the same weight. How dare she? And she will be judged anyway.
It is interesting that we're starting to see some of this as I'm coming back into a spiritual journey. You've been in the group chat with me when we've talked about this, but our mutual friend Jessica Green has convinced me to join a church in the local town of Redacted, where I live. I've been doing that.
Didn't know that. I've been out of that group chat for a couple months now.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, no, yeah. I just not this past month, but the month before, I went back to church for the first time since probably I left the town. No, that's not true, because I did go a couple times when I lived in Kenosha too. In fact, I used to attend the church that Joe Biden spoke at in Kenosha during the St. Jacob riots. I saw the stained glass in the backdrop. I'm like, I know that place. I know exactly where that is because I used to go there. But I'm looking at this, and this is becoming a religion. There's no other term for this. And now I don't think she's talking about Yahweh when she's talking about the God that gave this. This is the God of science that they all seem to worship, the God of government.
Yeah, it is. It's insane. They've turned science into a religion. They've turned the government into religion. They didn't do it. They're just riding the wave of the people that have done it before them for the last 70 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, this whole thing really started years and years ago, picked up steam with Obama, and then really, I think, the turning point when you really started getting normal people to do crazy things is when I started seeing people not throwing paper straws in the faces of anyone trying to hand it to them because they took away plastic straws to save sea turtles. And it sounds crazy. People always are like, that was your tipping point. I'm like, that is the moment. That was the litmus test for people, is like, are you willing to stop drinking out of a plastic straw because some idiot told you that a sea turtle would die from it?
Yeah, and I
Oh,
mean,
and
as
not
far
one
as I
total.
know, we don't have the paper straws here, so I've never actually experienced one. I have no idea what's going on with that, but from what I understand, they suck.
Oh, they're awful. They taste bad. I mean,
Um,
people think that I'm in, like, when I say these things, they think I'm just nitpicking, or like that it's like, oh, why is she going off on this tangent? Because you guys don't realize that this is what, like, all of this craziness that is spread across the whole country. This is what California's been like for years and years.
mhm.
It's This is what New York is. I don't even think New York holds a candle to the crazy that is California. You guys don't understand how bad it is. When they talk about people thinking that like light is dark and dark is light, they are talking about California. It is just a Sodom looking for its Gomorrah. And it's so bad. And the rest of the country is not immune to this happening, because California is not an island unto itself. I've said this over and over. It is a
Yeah.
cancer. It is like locust. It will spread unless you cut it off. And I hate to say that. I loved California. It is, for many, many years, most of my life, it was my home. All of these things that you're seeing, every single one of these things I have seen. It started in the streets of San Francisco, spread to LA, and it is just taken over that whole state, and it will take over the country if you guys let it.
Yeah. Well, and oh, we lost Britt there for a second. I think she just muted out and
And my
oh,
kids are, I'm trying to get my kids out of the room. So
ah. One of the things that really gets to me about this, and I've made the determination that I'm never going to spend money in Dane County, Madison, Wisconsin. I've made that determination at this point, and I do. I go out of my way not to, like, I still drive through it because it's the quickest way, and you don't really want to waste gas, especially at 3.50 a fucking gallon, to go around Dane County if you want to go somewhere. But I don't spend money there. I will go out of my way to make sure that I get all my gas, get my food, snacks, everything before I get to Dane County. And if I gotta pee, I'll fucking hold it till I get to Columbia County. And
yeah.
it's the same thing with California. I try my hardest not to spend money on anything that's going to be going into that state. Unfortunately, the best carnivorous plant nursery in the country is in NorCal. And yes, I did just buy plants last month.
I would say that it's the second best, but I'm partial to a different one in California, which is in Southern California. But
Oh, oh, you might have to give me an idea on that one. Do you raise carnivorous plants?
mm, I had two in California.
Oh, I have four right now, and they came out of Sebastopol in NorCal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's like I go out of my way to try not to spend money where I know the headquarters is in California. It's the same way, and we do have to maybe kind of do some of that kind of stuff. I want to touch back on this National Guard thing though, and Katie's had pointed this out, and I actually the first time I talked about this, I completely missed this about this because Hochul is saying that in order to fill the vacancies that are coming out of this mass firing, she's going to tap the National Guard. I didn't realize this when I first talked about this. These aren't active duty soldiers who are living on a base. These are citizen soldiers. And if they have medical training, it's very likely that they're working in the medical field, which tells me that she's probably taking them out of small family practices in local places to go reassign them into hospitals. And that just opens up a whole level of state takeover of resources that I'm not comfortable watching.
Well, that's what they're trying. They're trying to militarize the hospitals and the education system so that it's all taken over by government. This isn't like a flaw, something that, oh, we have to do it because this thing happened to us. This is a feature. We're doing this thing actively. We're causing this pandemic to be prolonged. We're firing people, and now we're going to make it where it's not feasible for people to have a small practice, where it's not feasible for people to homeschool their children. You will be controlled by the state. You will have nationalized healthcare. They're taking over every aspect that they can. I look at this and we've talked about this how many times, where I've said I did not think that the election was stolen in the way people are saying. I think that the election was stolen when they started doing mail-in ballots. I think a lot of that happened then. I think that people went door to door and did the legwork and had people vote the way they wanted them to do. And I think that's how the election ended up the way that it did. I no longer know that I have much confidence in that being it. I really thought a lot of this election fraud stuff was just crazy talk from a man that didn't want to lose. And I'm looking at everything that happened now. I'm looking at what happened in California with Gavin Newsom and the recall election, and how 2 days later what he did and how he started all of these mandates and just hammered home that not only am I still your governor, but now you're going to see the wrath when you try and defy me. You ever cross me again, and this is how you'll pay for it. This is what's happening. And I don't know what it's going to take anymore, but this militarization of hospitals is just one facet of all of the working pieces to make this country, the left is actively trying to make this a socialist country. And we'll slide into communism very quickly.
And I mean, it's not just the hospitals either. I mean, it's creeping into other parts of the industry here. In Massachusetts, they've activated the National Guard for bus drivers, which I think is hilarious because all the rest of us in the world need to have a special endorsement on our license to carry children, which I do not have. I can drive a bus as long as there are no kids on it because I've got a CDL, but yeah, once you put one kid on there, I am in violation of the law, and I don't understand how they get around that part of the endorsement. I know they're keeping them out of the commercialized vehicle and giving them regular E250 vans to carry 8 kids at a time in, but they still don't have that endorsement, the child endorsement. But it's another aspect of it. They're going into the education system, and because that's the next thing they're talking about. And I know Newsom is talking about getting all the kids vaccinated, but I mean, what's next? The teachers vaccinated? What if they don't want to get vaccinated? Well, you're fired. Okay. How do we fill the holes? Oh, the military.
You'll notice Newsom's mandate doesn't extend to teachers
yet.
Your children have to get vaccinated to protect the people that are actually afraid of getting sick, because the kids aren't getting sick. This isn't dangerous for kids. In fact, I would argue the opposite. I would say if the kids got sick, then this would filter out of society in a couple generations. Mm-hmm. It would be like anything else, but teachers aren't mandated. The ones that are afraid of getting sick aren't mandated. Now, they might be mandated under a state law saying that like federal workers or government workers have to get the vaccine without exception. And I don't know where that stands, but there's a very good chance that teachers will be under the same exemption as USPS was exempted, because the teachers union is a huge lobby and has a lot of pull with our government, because I mean, they do the dirty work of recruiting the next set of soldiers for the government.
Well, I mean, I'm going to actually push this topic into the same thing, so we'll do live chat after the next topic here. But I mean, it's even going on to this, and we saw some of this stuff this week. Both Biden and McConnell got their booster shots live on the air. Actually, I don't think McConnell I don't think he did it on air, but he came out and started bragging about it almost immediately off of this. And this is another set of religiosity, and I've seen. I've explained to you my weakness for pretty women before, and that's kind of where my Instagram is filled with at this point. But I've seen some of the liberal left women out of Madison who I've followed throughout the years. You know, they're in there. They're young, 22, 23, healthy, and they're sitting there for the booster shot that the FDA doesn't even recommend for somebody that age. Now, I can understand with Biden and McConnell coming out and doing it because neither one of them is in great health. McConnell had polio, for God's sakes, and Biden, well, his brain is Swiss cheese at this point, and they're both 80 fucking years old.
No.
I can understand it for them. But all I see when I see the fact that they're doing it on live TV is this religiosity that we're seeing coming out of this.
From the very beginning of these vaccines, they said that older people and obese people would probably need a third shot. And it was very strange to me at the time that that was something that was brought up. And then they stopped talking about it. It was like they just didn't say anything. And now they're pushing this third shot for everyone. And it goes against, it's like when I say they, I say like we have like politicians saying one thing, but then we have the FDA and the CDC saying something else, that this third shot isn't for everyone, not right now. And then we have all of the things coming out of Israel where they're getting ready for their fourth shot. It's hard for me because I do believe that vaccines are a boon for society. I don't believe that this vaccine is any more dangerous than any other vaccine, to be perfectly blunt about it. And I don't entertain talk of, you know, this is a therapeutic, this is this, this is this, this is that. I've heard it all. So go ahead and, you know, be mad about it in the comments. I disagree. So there's nothing that anyone's going to say. But I also know that there's, you know, side effects like with anything else. I think the real issue is that you're not allowed to participate in society without these shots.
Yeah.
Because this, let's be honest, if we really cared about people and their health and safety, the government wouldn't have done the exact opposite to keep people healthy and safe during the pandemic. They wouldn't have encouraged people that were already overweight in the most overweight country in the world to stay at home and get fatter. They wouldn't have encouraged people to shop in, you know, 3 big box stores so that they're all gathered together so that there's a higher chance of them getting a communicable disease. Like, they just wouldn't have done it. So to say now that we're so far out from this, like now we're going to mandate it for everyone to participate in society, that's where the issue is. That's where that's where I think that there's something. It's like you couldn't have picked a better way to make people not want to get a vaccine. You couldn't have picked a better way to scare people.
Well, the thing that I want to take for a second, and did you see this Olbermann video that came out over the weekend? This Keith Olbermann video?
Yeah, fuck that dude.
Well, I'm going to play it right now for the people who haven't seen it. But I mean, they've moved on, and I pointed this out this morning on Contemporary. They moved on from, we're not touching this vaccine because it came out, and Trump was the one who came out and did it, to, oh, it's January 21st. Everybody run out and get the vaccine. It's perfectly safe. And don't worry, it came out after the election, so everything's perfectly safe. It's not politicized too. Hey, let's go ahead and give you a free truck and an entry into $1 million lottery and a free gun if you go out and get the vaccine, or free donuts or this and that thing. Aren't you excited for this? To this entry from Mr. Keith Olbermann that we're going to listen to right here.
Time to stop coddling the people who won't get the shot. Booster shot. Mission accomplished. And it is time to stop coddling them, the ones who won't get the damn shot already. And our first step, you and I, is symbols, the language we use. We call these people vaccine hesitant, vaccine skeptics, anti-vax. We say they're protesting mandates and passports. They're making a personal choice. They're waiting for more information. They're making a medical decision. Bullshit! They're afraid. They're afraid to get vaccinated. Stop feeding their egos about what they're doing. Stop.
And I noticed that he won't come out and like say this to these people. Because if he came out in middle America, where I live, and tried to do this to some of the rural people, he'd probably not have any fucking teeth left.
What is so wrong with being afraid of something that's brand new and knowing full well that you're the experiment for it? Like, fear has kept people alive for millennia. So, I mean, he's afraid of healthy people breathing on him. So,
yeah, and I could see that. I guess I never took the idea of why not be afraid. I guess I'm not afraid to not take it. Or I'm not really afraid of it. I just don't want it. I barely take aspirin, for God's sake. I take almost no medication for absolutely anything in the world. I haven't been to a hospital, and I couldn't even tell you. I haven't been to other than my yearly physical for my CDL, I haven't been to a doctor in 9 years. Why do I want to take this? Especially when the government is telling me so hard to do it, begging me to do so, and this all does say ulterior motive to me. It really does. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's the mark of the beast because it's not on your right hand, it's not on your forehead, but especially if you want to drive these Marjorie Taylor Greene types crazy, start giving them the mark of the beast, or giving them fuel to look at this and say this is the mark of the beast.
I think that they're, I don't know, this Keith Olbermann is a jackass. So really, anything he has to say, like, it wasn't even clever. It was just like, you're scaredy cat. Like, shut up, nerd.
What's he going to do when he doesn't have millions of dollars of writers sitting behind him either?
Right? That was the best he could come up with.
Well, I mean, it's all going so far. We're talking about the mandates. They're talking about now $700,000 fines for employers per instance, by the way, who won't force their employees to go get vaccinated. And YouTube came out this week and saying that they are going to ban all content that spreads vaccine misinformation.
So, is like anything from the CDC that they said like last week? Is it going to just, vaccine misinformation could be anything. It changes from day to day. Vaccine information is just whatever the Biden administration wants it to be this week to push a narrative. It's true. It changes literally like day to day.
That's a fair question. Of course, the article's from NPR, so they don't go in and talk about the changes that the government makes out. But no, that's absolutely a fair question to ask about this. I do know that I'm probably not going to have a YouTube channel for very long because I made a note to say, you know what, if you want to go get the vaccine, go ahead and do it. If you want to and you don't have a ride to get there, call me up. I will bring you there. Just please don't make me go and take it. And I could see that being picked up by the filters.
I don't know. I'm off. Friday we couldn't even stream live because our live streaming is banned for a week. So
did they tell you what they popped you for?
Something else, but it's only a matter of time. It's not like Freckles and I are exactly YouTube friendly.
Let's see, how many channels has Steven gone through at this point? I think he's on his 5th now. The RRC is on 4. I have miraculously never been popped. I've had a couple videos taken down for various things, but I've appealed it and won every one. But that's what I see from that. You look like you're getting tired.
I'm trying to stay awake. I still haven't. I still am having like trouble sleeping, so I keep waking up super early.
All right, well, let's check with live chat here, and then we will get into the last. I think what's going to be the last topic. We've got to talk about this budget thing, and then we'll head out of here for the day. We can probably skip the Afghanistan hearings. It was just basically a bunch of people crying. Let's Let's see. Where were we? Child abuse, child abuse, child abuse. Cookies and mac and cheese for dinner, which that sounds really good. I miss carbs right now. Illiterate Novax Bear says an innie or an outie, going back to talking about kids figuring out what their gender was at an early age. Katie Zed says National Guard medics have real jobs in the real world in the medical field that they will be pulled away from. Ben Wild says, Jesus, that's insane. A Vax necklace. 80s Kid actually got his message censored on YouTube, but because of the restream chat, I can still see it. 80s Kid says, everyone needs to boo that biatch. It censored my word, B-hatch. That's how he got around it over on the YouTube side. And then he goes on and says, Biden be like, who are all these people booing at? I'd hate to be that guy. It's like the Obama meme. I'm so popular, everyone wants to have sex with me. Well, that's not what fuck Joe Biden means. Ben Wild says, I mean, why be afraid? Just trust the government. And that's, I think, going back to the religiosity, what we were talking about earlier. Keith Olbermann seems to be more mad that you don't fall down and kneel at his religion, that you don't just trust what the government has to say, because he is the messenger of the religion. He is the prophet, and you're supposed to just listen to him because he's a prophet.
Well, I think the biggest incitement of anger is coming from their own hearts, knowing that if Trump was president right now, none of them would have taken this vaccine.
Yeah, I could see that. Hong Kong. Instead, we have the world's most popular president in history. No fraud happened there. More votes than Barack Obama. Wink.
Right.
Hong Kong.
I'm probably going
to get popped for the comments you made on the fraud election fraud thing, even though there was no fraud, Susan. Most popular president in history. Fairest election ever. Hong Kong.
It was bigly fair. Everything was fine.
Katie Zed will finish out this session here. What is with men and not going to the doctor? Mr. Zed is the same way. 9 years without a physical is a long time. No, I have a physical every year because I have to have one for my CDL. But it's not anything like an actual routine physical that I would go to with the doctor either. I don't get the finger stuck up my butt. But I know that year is coming too. I'm almost 40. All right, we got to talk about this budget thing because that has dominated the news, especially given the fact that that was a big part of this, is whether or not we were going to see a government shutdown over the weekend here. So to catch us up over the Trump years, I believe this was at the beginning of 2020, Congress came together and passed the final omnibus bill, which would have carried us up until this past Thursday, September 30th, as the last day that the government had any money set aside for government operations, meaning that as of midnight, going into October 1st, then the government was supposed to shut down. Now, the continuing fight right now is going on over the debt ceiling and whether it be raised or suspended right now, and congressional Democrats tried their damnedest to get that put into the continuing resolution that they passed at the 11th hour on Thursday night. It did not wind up getting into there. Democrats and Republicans came together and passed a clean bill, 63-37, to keep the government open until December of 2022. The argument is still out there because of the debt ceiling. We have until October 18th to get there, and yet we still also have to have the argument about the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation here. So we are going to start with the continuing resolution. The government's going to be open until December of 2022. What say you on that?
I wish that they would have shut it down for good. I was pretty bummed. I was hoping that they would stop government. I don't know really what else to say. My general feeling is we already gave these people the money to pay for the stuff. And the fact that they didn't pay for the stuff with the money we gave them, that's their problem now. I honestly believe that every single person working in politics, every person in Congress, I believe that every single penny that is owed should be personally tied to their finances. They're the ones that got us in this situation. We paid our bill. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault if I pay my credit card bill to Citibank, and then Citibank doesn't pay and defaults on their mortgage, that's not my fucking problem. I paid my bill. So I believe, go ahead, raise that debt as high as you want, but it's now tied personally to your finances. I think that we would see resolutions a lot quicker if we did things that way.
Well, I mean, there's always the panic over what's going to happen if the government shuts down too, and that's been the argument. And we'll go over the debt ceiling in a second, but they tried so hard to tie this to the continuing resolution of this, which I don't know. This is my personal quip and gripe with this: is whatever happened to budgets? Can we have a budget at some point, anywhere, somewhere, please, pretty please?
It's just a word now. It's like they just say that. I mean, it's like the same thing I tell my husband when he's like, don't spend any more money on Amazon. And I'm like, all right, I have a budget this month. And really what I mean is stop talking so I can spend more money. Like, that's what I mean, look at, you know what it's going to be like when you have me on this show, dude. Like, it's not going to be the conversation where I'm going to analyze the government as if they deserve the respect to be analyzed with what they're doing, with anything but mocking and jest, because this is ridiculous at this point. It's ridiculous. Like, how long are we supposed to just pretend that they're just trying to find a resolution? All that's happening is they're waiting for some other catastrophe so that they could throw this in and charge us more money. That's just what happens every time. And it's like, I think that what I said earlier, the only radical solution is to tie this debt to them. They did it. We paid our bill. We didn't even have a choice. We just had to pay it or we went to jail. So we paid our bill. I don't know what they did with that money. That's not my fucking problem. But it's already gone. In fact, when I paid that money, I was told what that money was supposed to be for. And then they didn't use it for that. And now we owe tons of money, or they owe tons of money. I don't know shit because I paid my bill. In fact, I paid a bill that really I shouldn't have even had to, because fuck them hoe ass roads. But let's tie it to let's tie all that debt to Congress personally. I think that's the campaign we need. I think that's what we need to do. Congress now, if you raise the debt ceiling, fine. I don't care. Make it $1 gazillion. It's tied to you, bitch. Not me. Not my kids. Not my grandkids. It's you. You pay for it. And you will default on your house. And you will default on your car. And you will be the one that owes. And you will be the one that will be destitute. You're not going to put it on the American people anymore. I wish more people would get behind this. Probably, it won't happen. But I'm just saying, I think it's a good solution. I think it would stop this nonsense, because people get real frugal and stick to the budget real close when they're the ones that are responsible for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've mentioned that. I don't want to go too much into my finances on the show, but I mean, most of my audience knows this, that I'm sitting poised right over the top of perfect credit right now. And, I'm working tightly within a budget right now to pull together $3,000, because that's all that I need to pay off 2 little glittering marks that are sitting over the top of my head still. And I think I've told you what they are off air, and we'll keep that conversation off air. But hiding to a budget and holding to it as hard as I can, because I know that I can't do anything else with my life until I get those 2 things paid off. And the government doesn't seem to have that responsibility. And they keep sitting here and say, oh, well, we're going to run out of money to pay our responsibility, so we need to raise the debt ceiling. I've likened it to an electric bill. That's one that I'll use for there. Every once in a while, maybe once every couple of years, an emergency comes up. If you've got to put your electric bill on a credit card, that's okay. Every once in a while. If you're doing it every month, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I've never had to put my electric bill on a credit card, so I don't know. But if I knew you could do that, I totally would, because I would want the points. But
well, that is fair. That's not completely an apt example, but I mean, you shouldn't be borrowing to pay your baseline bills. You should be just doing that out of cash and then borrowing to do something like buy a car or a house or something.
But that's not their money. They don't care because it's not their money. And they know that if they want something, all they have to do is threaten us with jail and take away our livelihood and our lives and any capital we have to finance whatever their stupid pet project is, which mostly is just funneling into their bank accounts. And I have so much disdain for these people. It's hard. It's like, I don't consider that our debt. I don't consider that my debt. I don't consider any of that my fiduciary responsibility. That's on them. That's 100% on them. It makes me so angry that this is even a question of whether we, the Democrats acting like, should we spend 1 billion or 1 trillion or 3 trillion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, screw you. Every one of you, like, I can't say what I want to say because I don't want to get you thrown off YouTube, but like, I wouldn't lose any sleep at night if we brought back public hangings. I just wouldn't. I am not for that. I'm just saying I wouldn't be sad if it happened.
Well, and I mean, that's one of the things that go with this. And I thought I pulled the article up for this here. I know it's in the notes, but I don't want to go looking for it right now. But I know that, it's just like what we talked about with the abortion thing at the top of the show. They come out and they scream, oh, well, because you banned abortion in Texas and you're offering bounties, which none of these people have any idea how a fucking bounty works, but you're offering bounties so this woman who's having a miscarriage, they're going to sue her into oblivion for having a miscarriage. They do the same thing with the debt. What was the first, well, I don't know if you know this or not, but you know what the first thing it was that they brought out when they started talking about what they're going to default on if they don't get the debt ceiling raised?
No.
Seniors might not get their Social Security check. Oh no, what do we do? That might cut off all their income.
I don't care. If that's what seniors got us into this mess. If we have to kill off one generation to get the budget back on track, fine, whatever.
Oh.
It's on them. I don't care. You don't.
No, I understand.
I don't care anymore. It's okay to kill them all when we want to throw them into COVID nursing homes, but now all of a sudden it's like, oh, they don't care. Seniors went their whole freaking lives letting this happen to our country. So, yeah, sorry, Grandma. You know what? You let the snake take over the finances? What did you think was going to happen? Don't care.
I mean, that's absolutely, that's absolutely fair. But I mean, that's what's coming out here. That's what's getting fed to the Twitter bots that are coming out here screaming at the rest of us for this too. And this is the ammunition that these people, these newscasters, are handing to these, saying, "Oh my God, they're going to go back out." And kill. You have an anecdote, don't you?
No, it has nothing to do with that. But somebody saw that my Greta Thunberg rant and sent me a picture that says "Weather Potato is not amused." Sorry. I wish I could show this picture. I'm gonna send it to you on the Twitter or I'm gonna text it to you. Maybe that'll be faster.
Actually, if you send it to me on Twitter DM, I can probably bring it up on the screen free and clear. I have the technology to do that.
Do we know how to do things, Ed?
I do. And now I have a computer that's powerful enough to do it. You haven't been here since I got the new computer, did you?
I'm so sorry to just run us right off the rails, but I just
we've been off the rails for a while.
You know what to expect with me.
I do, and that's part of the reason I like to have you here. This is what we're talking about. Whether Potato is not amused. How dare you! How dare you!
Blah, blah, blah. We're back.
It's enough to take us. I mean, it's enough to
Leave
take us off
Greta
this.
alone. I'm sorry. I'll be good. Okay.
Well, somebody's got to be, because you remember that one Canadian guy that got slapped in the ass for the fact that he put the bent over image of Greta on his helmet,
No.
but she was still a minor.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, somebody did that in Canada and got into a lot of trouble over that one.
Oh, that's not great.
No, it's not. But I mean, it pulls us off this depressing discussion about what's going on with the government and the debt here. Because yeah, I mean, we're at this point here, and the thing that gets me is they keep trying to sell us that this big spending package that they're doing, $3.5 trillion. It's already paid for. It's not going to add anything to national debt. I'm sorry, you old decrepit bastard. Do you practice Santeria? Do you have a crystal ball? Do you know what's going to happen here?
Mike, I asked that question over and over. It's already paid for, and my questions were by whom and when.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the receipts. I mean, literally, like, you have to have receipts if you make a comment on social media nowadays. You're going to tell me that I'm just supposed to trust you that this is all taken care of? Like, I don't think so. I want to see the receipt, and I want to see the code that I enter to show that the bill's been paid in full. Like, I don't think so.
Well, they're supposedly going to be making this paid in full by the fact that they're going to go after the billionaires. They're going to go after the wealth tech. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. But you know, they're coming out here and they're saying that okay, the Donald Trump tax cuts added $1.9 trillion to the national debt, which is false, by the way. That is completely false. Most of the $1.9 trillion that came on the national debt towards the end of the presidency happened due to states demanding the federal government pay them for COVID relief plans that I opposed from the beginning.
Well, I mean, it's weird, though, because it's almost like they kept this COVID situation going to get the relief money. And the states that took the most money were also the states that were, wait for it, about to default on hospitals at the beginning of COVID. Chocolat bleu. Like, we're all, and then my favorite part of it is that we have Democrats that are like, this all pans out. We're the party of education and science. I'm like, are you guys not the party of math? Are you not the party of common sense? No, they're not. They're idiots. It's so ridiculous.
I looked at this here, and I found this article here out of Fox Business, which, I mean, they're so biased the other direction, you don't know how much you can trust them. But the analyst that's involved in this one points out the fact that this is probably going to cost much, much more than $3.5 trillion. Now, the initial cost is going to be $3.5 trillion, and they have it budgeted out in the bill. But a lot of this is, because this is supposed to be over 10 years, a lot of what's going to be in here is various programs that sunset before the end of 10 years, but they expect to be renewed throughout the 10 years by a sympathetic Congress, so they can just, we'll push this through and we'll renew this without anybody knowing off of this. So the actual cost of this monstrosity that they're doing could possibly come out to $5 to $6 trillion by the end of it all. Over 10 years. Well,
they're going to take $3 trillion from us. Mm-hmm. And then they're not going to fix anything. They won't fix any of the things. And then to pay for what they stole from us that they didn't use, to pay for what they said they were going to use, they're going to take another $3 trillion. And then they're not going to pay for that either. So we're going to be paying for this into perpetuity. I think that's what people need to realize. Anything that the government tells you that they're going to make you pay for, you're going to be paying for it over and over and over again into perpetuity, because they will never, like, when is the last time there was like a president that came out at a State of the Union or Congress coming out and said, well, we owe less, guys. We're on a financial plan. We're paying the money back. We owe less. For the first time, we owe less than owing more. When did that happen? When was the last time that happened?
Well, I could mention that, but it's the same president who stuck a cigar inside of an intern.
Yeah.
No, he had a balanced budget, and we did owe less by the end
Yeah.
of his presidency. That has been statistically proven.
That was 1994. Was that? I'm trying to think when.
It was 97 when the budget was balanced. So it was in second term Clinton. And the debt started going down.
Yeah.
Which was about the time he started getting embroiled into the Monica Lewinsky thing. How based is that chick, by the way? I follow her on Twitter just for the fucking fun of it.
Yeah, she said for a long time, like, I felt like what happened with her was sexual assault, not. I just don't understand how it wasn't. And I think her finally kind of coming and saying that it is what it is. I think she had a lot of pressure. And I think that the saddest part about all that is the whole story when we talked about her was that she was fat. Like that is what I really remember from that whole thing is more than anything is that she didn't deserve sympathy because she was fat. Like it was just, it's a weird thing that that was a takeaway for me as like a kid. I was a kid when that happened.
Yeah. Because you got what, 1 year on me, I think? 1 or 2?
Yeah. I don't know, a couple probably. I'm 39.
37, so 2. So yeah, you probably have just a little bit clearer of a recollection of it over what I do because I was still in middle school and learning what some of these words meant for the first time.
Yeah.
And wondering how a cigar could actually be just a cigar. I was a little bit sheltered at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, looking back at this, what I do like about the budget reconciliation and what's happening with it is that they're pushing it off. And now, like cinema, the cinema thing is, I mean, cinema is doing wonders off of this, far, far above what even like Manchin's doing. I think Manchin is himself. I think he's trying to make campaign ads for 2022. I don't trust Joe Manchin. I think he's coming out here looking for something where he can come out and say, okay, well, if you guys want this big spending package, you better vote for more Democrats. You better give us absolute power so we can come back out and do this. I think he's being the heel so he can come back out and say that. But cinema is, I mean, she's doing the Lord's work on this entire thing. I think if this does go to push, it gets blocked. But some of this comes back around to the other infrastructure bill that is still sitting stalled in the House. And Sinema finally came out over the weekend and said, what the fuck? What the fuck is wrong here? Why can't we go vote on this? I voted on this. I crafted this. Why can't you hold a House vote?
Yeah. I feel like there's a whole behind the scenes agenda going on. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. So I think that that's what's happening there. I think that that's the whole situation is like, this is all, I don't know. It's all just like a narrative for what's to come. And things are going to get held up. Things that make sense getting held up. It's like what things that don't, and I'm not saying they make sense for me as a libertarian. I'm saying things that should make sense to the people voting on them don't. It's like, what have we not seen?
Well, I know that she's like the big heel to the left right now too, which I don't know if, like you said, some of this is behind the scenes and they're coming out to try to, drum up emotion off of this, or if she actually does hold this. I could see the argument where she's doing like I don't trust Manchin to do, because I could see him coming, especially with all the money that he's got his fingers in. And the fact that the other infrastructure bill has a very generous grant to a research center for, I believe it's road construction, that his wife is involved in. We talked about that a few weeks ago. I hear about, especially you having lived in such a big city before, the idea of going into the bathroom and women not feeling safe when they go into the bathroom. Well, this happened, we're going to watch this video here, at ASU over the weekend, where Sinema went back to speak. And some of her more left-wing counterparts decided that they wanted to have a conversation with her over this. Let's watch what this looked like. Let me pull this out where I can full screen it here.
Okay, I'll be back.
Sit down, we want to talk to you real quick. Can we talk to you real quick?
Hi, actually, I am heading out.
But right now is a real moment that our people need in order for us to be able to talk about what's really happening. We need a Build Back Better plan right now.
We knocked on doors. We need solutions. The Build Back Better plan has the solutions that we need.
We knocked on doors for you to get you elected, and just how we got you elected, we can get you out of office if you don't support what you promised us.
We need 7 million citizenship for 7 million. We need the Build Back Better plan right now.
My name is Blanca. I was brought here to the United States when I was 3 years old. And in 2010, my grandparents both got deported because of SB 1070. And I'm here because I definitely believe that we need a pathway to citizenship. My grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago, and I was not able to go to Mexico and visit him because there is no pathway to citizenship. And if we have the opportunity to pass it right now, then we need to do it, because there's millions of undocumented people just like me who share the same story or even worse things that happen to them because of SB 1070 and because of anti-immigrant legislation. And this is the opportunity to pass it right now, and we need to hold you accountable to what you told us, what you promised us that you were going to pass when we knocked on doors for you. It's not right.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor of human trafficking, and it's because of the lack of worker protections that we don't have in the gig economy. I need you to stand by workers. Lots of people who are like me who became homeless and
All right, and that's all the video clip that we have of this. But I mean, to corner somebody like that in the bathroom and, you know, shout and then record it on top of it.
The entitlement and privilege that they have, pretending that how dare you not pass this thing to make us, you know, full citizens. Like, how dare you not give us a pathway to citizenship when our grandparents and parents brought us here illegally, and now we don't have the same rights as citizens while I'm in this bathroom filming you. And it's just the hubris of the whole thing. It's almost enchanting how ridiculously privileged this little Cinderella story is. I mean, I don't think that they should be following anyone into a bathroom. I also think that this is par for the course when you cater to certain constituents, then you will be beholden to the same level of politics that you use to get to your position of power that will also be used against you if need be. I mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. There were a couple other things that came off of this. Somebody pointed out in the live chat this morning, because we watched this same video this morning. Somebody pointed out in the live chat that how is this woman going to get Sinema out of office when she can't vote? She's a dreamer. They don't have voting rights. But I mean, even as she pointed out, she was a door knocker to get Sinema into office. In Arizona, I really hope they try to primary her from the left, because I don't think that's going to go over really well.
No. This whole thing, it's like, well, you knew what was. I don't think anyone should be shocked by this. I mean, so it is. Some of these things I just look at and it's like I have no shock left. I'm just kind of like, you made your bed, lie in it.
Well, and one of the other things that I also noted, and I noted this one when I watched the video, because I didn't pre-watch the video um, before we watched it on the show this morning, so I was watching it for the first time with a lot of my audience, was that the immigrant thing out of the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation is actually not even in there. The parliamentarian told them they could put that in.
Yeah.
Because that has nothing to do with budget reconciliation. So they're fighting for something that's not even in this bill.
Yep. They don't even it's just a bunch of useful idiots.
And I did say
saw
that
it last summer, and now this is going to be. It's all cyclical. I mean, I'm still waiting for us to come back around to those kids in the cages, but I think we're probably gonna have to wait for midterms for that.
Yeah, until they have Republicans they can beat over the head with it.
Yeah. And suddenly they'll be back in the news cycle again.
All right. That is all the news that I have for today, but I have one little treat for you at the end. I found every week a little bit of surprise stupidity to brighten everybody's day off of this. And today's surprise stupidity, and it comes with video too, by the way, but today's surprise stupidity comes from the red-haired bobblehead herself, Jen Psaki. Reading from the Daily Wire, Psaki, it's unfair and absurd that companies would raise costs for consumers due to higher taxes.
What?
White House Press Secretary Jen... Go ahead.
That's a thing? So, are you... Okay. Are you telling me, if I have this correct, which it must be a lore, a legend, that if you raise taxes on someone who has a budget, is it because they don't know how a budget works in government? Is that no? Okay. So if you have somebody that has a budget and then you make them pay more money for no fucking reason, you just say this is what you're paying now. That those people are going to find a way to be fiscally responsible for their business and protect that and pass that cost on to the consumer of their business. That's a thing? Has government tried that? Did they? Well, I am just color me shocked. I'm right there with you, Jen Psaki. I cannot believe that I can't. I am shooketh.
This is why I love this segment so much. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki claimed during Monday's press briefing that it would be unfair and absurd for companies to raise costs on consumers in response to the Biden admin raising the corporate tax rate. And we can actually listen to it happen. That's the best part. We can listen to her say this. Let's have a listen to the red-haired bobblehead.
I want to ask you about what Republicans are pointing to in the analysis from the Joint Committee on Taxation. They say, according to, if I've read the chart correctly, more than 16% of taxpayers would see their taxes increase under the bill that's approved by the House Ways and Means Committee. Will the president sign that bill as it is coming out of that committee, or will he insist on the changes so that he will maintain his commitment that taxes won't go up on people making $400,000 a year?
I have not looked at the document or the report that you have put out. Obviously, the president, or that you have referenced, I should say, that the Republicans put out. Obviously, the president's commitment remains not raising taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. There are some, and I'm not sure if this is the case in this report, who argue that in the past, companies have passed on these costs to consumers. I'm not sure if that's the argument being made in this report. We feel that that's unfair and absurd, and the American people would not stand for that. But I will take a closer look at this report and get you a more substantive response. Go ahead, Jackie.
The level of self-awareness is at zero. Does she not realize that the government passed on their fucking debt onto the business owner in the first place? Like, did she? Girl. Peppermint. Girl. Come on. It is unfair and it is absurd that people would try and find a way to keep their business going just because we charge them more money because we don't know what a fucking budget is. So now we had to pass that on to them. How dare they pass it on to someone else? It's like, it's so ridiculous, as if that's not the whole ass plan to get around charging people under $400,000. So, and this also comes on the heels of also the Biden administration wanting to look into your checking account if you make more than a $600 deposit. So, because we're searching for billionaires. Hate these people. Fucking trash humans.
Yeah. Are you sufficiently black-pilled for the week at this point?
No.
Let's check live chat and get out of here.
Yeah.
Ben Wild says people will die if we don't pass it. It's the same thing with Obamacare. They need to receive electrical shocks every time they say people will die. Ben Wild is taking the apparently the Mike Pence plan towards things. I'm a huge believer in behavior modification through electrical stimulus.
Okay.
Or they have to listen to Mariah Carey Xmas music every time they get in their car.
Oh gosh. Live or pre-recorded? Because one I can handle. The other one.
I'm going to go with live.
Oh gosh.
And last comment of the night comes also from Ben Wild. It says, in important news, they broke up a cockfighting ring up the road from me, 200 cocks. Feds were watching cocks for weeks, and now they're looking for places to put the cocks they seized.
Were they actually there to break up the cockfighting ring, or did they just get lost on the way to that march to Washington that they tried to blame on the right-wing activists?
I don't know. I think Ben Wild just tried to find a way to get me to say cock numerous times over and over again.
So many cocks. The feds were knee-deep in cocks.
They were watching cocks for weeks. And now they're looking for places to put the cocks they seized.
Oh, man.
Highest quality live chat in the world. Highest quality show. Highest quality production value. I think we need some outro music. Well, thank you, Britt. We always love having you over here, and we look forward to having you on the Turn Some Pages network. And if you guys want to donate a little bit to help keep us going here, link is, I don't think it's in the description. I think they put it out there, but it was in the chat earlier on today. There are numerous links to this over on Twitter. If you guys want to throw a couple bucks in, that will always be greatly appreciated. So hope to have you on board for that as well. And for anybody who doesn't know, at this point here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Find me on Twitter at Tweets by Britt, on Clubhouse at Salt by Britt, all of the other social media platforms, Salt by Britt, and the Fab Show Friday nights on YouTube. That's us. You can also find us on Twitter at the Fab Show Official. I'm there. Freckled Liberty is there. Rachel Nix is there. It's fun. It's a good time.
All right, and if you want to continue the conversation with me, you can find me on the Discord that has been linked in the chat as well. You can find me over on Twitter, that's at EdsBlog Twitter, with a 1 in place of the I. You can go check me out there. Otherwise, come and check me out on this channel once again. We'll be back here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning for more contemporary, talking about more fun shit and more stuff that happens there. And you mentioned the next time they can find you is Friday night at what time?
It's at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
So go and check that out over there. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow. We will see you guys all then. And as I always say, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Britt, lead them out with some last words.
Stay dangerous, guys.
Stay dangerous indeed. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.